kiss, not just okay, not just oh thanks for the breakfast, nothing like that.
No.
A real smoocheroo.
At 82, Susan Seaforth Hayes finally broke her silence about Days of Our Lives. For 50 years, she kept a secret that could have destroyed everything. It started with a single kiss in 1970 that changed television forever. But what happened behind the cameras was even more shocking. She was having a real affair while playing one on screen. The producers never knew. The fans never suspected. Now, after her co-star's death, she's revealing the truth about their forbidden romance and the lies they told to protect it. Susan Seaforth Hayes came into the world on July 11, 1943, in Oakland, right in the middle of a war that was pulling families apart before they even had time to grow. Her father, Harry Siebold, had married her mother, Elizabeth Harrower, only 90 days before he was sent overseas for 33 long months of World War II. Susan was conceived during his brief basic training near Oklahoma City, and by the time she was born, her mother had already moved back to her family home in Berkeley. The separation shaped her earliest memories, even though she was too young to name the feeling. The family reunited for a short time in 1943, but it ended quickly once Harry was sent back to duty. The absence left a quiet mark on the house, and it was something Susan shared with thousands of children born to servicemen during those years. Even so, her mother kept moving. Elizabeth had always wanted to act and write, and after the war pulled their marriage apart, she pushed herself back toward Hollywood. She took Susan with her before the little girl even turned 1. Los Angeles in the early 1940s was loud and restless. Studios worked day and night. Voices echoed across sound stages. People chased opportunity from one audition to the next. Susan grew up right in the middle of it. Elizabeth chased acting jobs, wrote scenes, read scripts at the kitchen table, and dragged Susan from stage doors to radio booths. That restless energy became the rhythm of her childhood. Susan never remembered having a father at home. Instead, she remembered bright lights, scripts scattered across couches, and her mother's determination. She stepped onto sets before she fully understood what a set was. She watched actors rehearse lines, watched directors give notes, and walked through backstage halls as if they were playgrounds. By 1954, she was on television herself, appearing on Cavalcade of America. She was only a child, but she had already learned how to stand still under a camera and how to hit her marks. Her father was gone by then. Harry and Elizabeth divorced after he returned from the war. The loss shaped her, but it also pushed her to depend on herself. She later said that this early independence helped her survive the intensity of the acting world. Her mother worked hard, usually for little money, and the two of them lived with the ups and downs of freelance life. Susan went to school during the day and sat in dusty theaters at night. By the time she turned 10 in 1953, she was already acting in community theater, taking small parts in productions that loved reenactments and Shakespeare scenes. Those plays taught her how to project emotion, how to hold an audience, and how to trust her instincts. In 1954, she earned her first real TV credit on Cavalcade of America, and the show paid her $50. That small paycheck got her a saggy card and something even more important, a sense that she belonged in this world she had grown up around. Money was still tight, so at 12, she took babysitting jobs, often for families who worked in the industry. She saved those earnings to pay for acting classes. The classes used method acting techniques, focusing on emotional truth and memory. Sitting in that studio, learning how to breathe and remember and respond, she felt the path she had been walking since childhood start to settle into place. Method taught her how to bring depth into small moments, something she carried into every role she played later. Her mother's career began to shift around the same time. Elizabeth moved from acting into writing for soaps in the late 1950s, which opened another window for Susan. She sat quietly during script readings at home, listening as her mother broke down character intentions and scene structure. She learned how writers thought, how pacing worked, and how stories stretched through weeks of episodes. This inside view gave her an advantage. She understood dialogue before many young actors even knew what pacing meant. At 15, she visited the set of Cavalcade of America again, this time as a young woman who had seen enough to recognize the power of having access. She shadowed her mother, watched the directors, observed the tension and the decision-making. She sensed how the politics of the room worked. The visit was short, but it stirred something new inside her. It told her that she could claim a space of her own in this world, even when casting rooms were crowded and girls her age were often overlooked. When she reached the early 1960s, she added something unexpected to her journey. She enrolled at Los Angeles City College to study history. She loved stories, and history gave her a deeper way to understand people. While studying, she took night acting workshops, where she performed monologues built on historical figures like Eleanor Roosevelt. The mix of research and emotion sharpened her range. She graduated in 1963 with a focus on American theater history and wrote a thesis on the pioneers of 1950s television. That work helped her in auditions because she understood the world of early TV better than most young actors did. It also gave her the habit of building layered backstories for her characters, a skill that became her trademark in soaps. Her early TV steps kept coming. At 11, she had already debuted on Cavalcade of America. At 13 in 1956, she landed a steady spot on You Are There, playing a witness in a Boston Tea Party reenactment. The episode aired on June 26, 1955, and she surprised producer Don Clark when she had lived a line. It was a small moment, but it made her stand out. Then, in 1960, she shifted into teen roles. She appeared on Passport to Danger as the daughter of a spy. It was a Cold War plot set in Marseille. The role was small, but it gave her another credit and kept her moving forward. By the time she turned 20, she had more than 20 credits to her name. She was still shaped by those early influences: the absence of her father, the fire of her mother, the sound of rehearsals, the stages she knew better than her own backyard, and the way she had always been taught to keep pushing through whatever stood in front of her. Susan Seaforth Hayes was only 13 when she stepped into the world of Lassie in 1956, and the moment felt bigger than anything she had known before. She played Melanie in an episode called The Runaway, and the whole story rested on a tearful monologue where she begged for help finding a lost dog. The scene came out of her like she had lived it, soft at first, and then rising with a kind of shaky truth that caught everyone off guard. Producers kept replaying it because a child showing that much emotion on camera in the 1950s was rare. Lassie was already a giant on CBS, going out every week to millions of homes. So when her scene aired, it quietly carried her name into living rooms she never expected. That single moment opened doors and sent her into the wave of family shows that Hollywood kept building in that era. A year later, in 1957, she showed up again, this time in The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. She played Annie Mae Hamble in The Sharpshooter Season 2, Episode 21. The role was gentle but interesting, since she played the niece of a saloon singer and even performed a folk tune live on camera. Westerns did not usually pause for a young girl to sing, so it made people watch her in a different way. The show was at its peak on ABC, sometimes pulling in 12 million viewers. That gave her another push. The blend of acting and singing told producers she could stretch herself in ways that most guest stars could not. Every small part kept adding something to her name. Then everything sped up in 1964 when she stepped into The Man from UNCLEE and became Kelly Brown in The Four Steps Affair. It aired on February 22, 1965, and carried a sharp spy thriller tone. She was asked to do chase scenes and a few dangerous moments. She did most of her own stunt work, even at that young age. Filming happened at MGM Studios in Culver City, and the crew worried she might get hurt, but she refused to step back. That reputation for fearlessness started here, and it traveled with her as the episode found millions of viewers who loved the show's quick action and sleek style. By 1968, she stepped into something bolder on the Wild Wild West. She played Delilah in The Night of Miguelito's Revenge, Season 4, Episode 12, which aired on December 13th of that year. Her costume was striking, her attitude playful, and she flirted with the villain in a way that drew sudden waves of fan mail. The episode itself was lively and strange, full of campy energy brought by the villain, Dr. Miguelito Loveless. It became her first role that truly leaned into seduction and confidence. Soon after, people began to notice her in a different light, especially as she moved toward the role that would change everything. Before she reached it, though, she kept stacking up credits. By 1967, she had logged more than 30 guest appearances on major shows, including pilots for General Hospital. Sometimes she lost roles because she looked too young, but that only made her work harder. She used every part to practice new accents, shifting from Southern tones to British rhythms. Casting directors loved her range, and since she kept appearing on huge shows like Perry Mason, Bonanza, and Wagon Train, her face became familiar to millions even before she became a household name. Then came January 1968. She was 24 when she walked onto the set of Days of Our Lives as Julie Olson in episode 402. She brought a mix of rebellion and charm, arguing with her on-screen grandparents Tom and Alice Horton about her choice in men. She was actually the fourth actress to play Julie, but after a few weeks, producers realized they did not want her gone. Her first major storyline was a secret pregnancy scare that made fans gasp. It was risky for daytime television in 1968, and it stirred debates among religious groups who thought soaps should not be pushing boundaries. But the risk paid off. It made Julie unforgettable, and it locked Susan into the heart of the show. Things got even louder for Julie in 1969 when she almost eloped with David Martin. He was labeled a bad boy, and she fell for him with the stubbornness that her character became known for. She almost ran away, but backed out after a long talk with her grandfather, Tom. Still, she married David later, and the marriage fell apart quickly. She was only 26 when she went through her first on-screen divorce. Daytime rarely showed divorces then, and it caused protests from religious organizations who said the show was promoting the wrong values. But the controversy made Julie even more central, and writers started taking bigger risks with her story. In 1970, something unusual happened behind the scenes. Susan's real-life mother, Elizabeth Harrower, became the head writer of the show. With her guiding the scripts, Julie stepped into deeper emotional territory. One of the biggest moments came when Julie fought a custody battle for a child. Susan delivered the courtroom scenes with raw force, sometimes in one take. Fans saw a new side of her. Julie was no longer the rebellious teen. She was complicated, bold, and unafraid to hurt or be hurt. This was also when she began stealing her sister's fiancé and building the early pieces of the super couple era with Doug Williams. By the early 1970s, Julie's popularity had exploded. Susan had her own fan club by 1970, and it grew to 5,000 members in just a few years. Fans loved her transformation from sweet ingenue to scheming woman, and her chemistry with Doug Williams only made that glow brighter. The twist that she stole her sister's fiancé shocked viewers But it also pushed Doug and Julie into becoming one of the most famous couples in daytime history. Her real-life romance with Bill Hayes, who played Doug, added an extra spark that fans felt even if they did not know the truth yet. Their rise turned legendary in 1970 when Susan first kissed Bill on screen. It aired on July 23rd and captivated 15 million viewers. That kiss was also their first kiss in real life. It created a rush of energy that shot through the show, and ratings went up by 20%. People could feel something real behind the acting. Everything that happened afterward carried that heat. They married privately in 1974, in Bill's living room with only 16 guests. Fans did not know at first, but the truth made their story even sweeter when their characters married on October 1st, 1976. That wedding was so famous, it landed on the cover of Time magazine. Women threw wedding parties in living rooms across the country just to celebrate them. Days of Our Lives held a 30 Nielsen share that year, and Doug and Julie were at the center of it. The show kept giving her demanding storylines, and in 1976, she pushed herself harder than ever. Julie escaped a kidnapper in a long chase sequence that lasted nearly 10 minutes. Susan was injured during filming but refused pain medicine because she wanted her reactions sharp and real. Viewers felt that intensity, and she and Bill won the Photoplay Gold Medal for Favorite Couple that year. She kept raising the bar. In 1975, she earned a Daytime Emmy nomination for a storyline where Julie cheated with a villain. It caused an uproar. NBC received 10,000 protest letters. Fans were furious, but they kept watching because she made the character so human that people could not turn away. Then, in 1978, she earned another Emmy nomination for Julie's breakdown after a miscarriage. The scenes were filmed partly in a real asylum. Susan pulled from her own struggles with fertility and let every piece of pain show on camera. Fans saw themselves in her, and the storyline became one of the most talked-about arcs of that decade. In 1979, everything around Susan shifted in a way she did not expect. Her own mother, Elizabeth Harrower, was head writer on the show, and she created a storyline where Julie Olson suffers a terrible kitchen fire. It was supposed to last 6 weeks, but the injury stayed on Susan's face for 6 months. Each morning, she had to sit still while glue-on prosthetics were attached to her skin. By afternoon, her face burned and itched so much that she had to see a dermatologist who warned her that the repeated adhesive could cause permanent beard growth. Still, she kept going. The story separated Julie from Doug for 18 episodes, echoing the tragedies Elizabeth had lived through in real life. Susan's recovery scenes were so raw that people talked about them for weeks. Her screams felt real because they were. The pressure drained her in a way she carried long after filming ended. Then, 1984 arrived, and the ground fell away again. Budget cuts hit the show hard, and Susan was suddenly fired. Her exit shocked everyone. Julie fled to Europe after a revenge affair with Jack Devereaux, and the show gave no hint she would ever return. Fans were furious. Letters poured in, and a petition swelled to 50,000 signatures. It became one of the biggest fan movements in soap history. The pressure worked, and producers had no choice but to bring her back. For many viewers, it was proof that their voices mattered, and that Susan's place in the show was bigger than any budget meeting. By 1990, Julie faced a cancer diagnosis on screen. Susan shaved her hair during filming to show the start of chemotherapy. The storyline was bold for its time. It played alongside national conversations about illness and fear. Some criticized it and said it made cancer look softer than it really was. Others said Susan's emotional scenes captured the pain in a way that sparked important discussions. Her work showed both the weight and the cost of stepping into such a serious story. In 1992, after 24 years on the show, Susan was let go again after a contract dispute. Her final scene ended with Julie cursing off camera, and tabloids turned it into a tale of a diva meltdown. Fans argued for weeks. Producers defended their decisions. The whole thing showed how fragile even the longest careers could be, and how quickly a legacy could be shaken. While all this was happening, Susan built careers on other soaps too. She joined The Young and the Restless in November 1984 as Joanna Manning. Joanna was sharp, manipulative, and dangerous in a way that thrilled viewers. Over 150 episodes, she fought with her daughter-in-law, Lauren Fenmore, blackmailed rivals, and drove major storylines. She even earned a Soap Opera Digest Award nomination in 1985. Joanna left the show in May 1989, but returned for special arcs in 2005, 2006, and 2010. Each return reminded people why Susan had such power in the genre. In May 2003, she crossed over to The Bold and the Beautiful for a single day. She played Joanna again, this time seducing a Forrester executive and pulling herself into the rival soap's world. The appearance was short but memorable. It showed she still had the same sharp spark she carried decades earlier. Back in 1999, she stepped into another role on Sunset Beach as District Attorney Patricia Steele. It ran for 20 episodes, filled with cross-examinations, courtroom twists, and pressure. She leaned on real legal research she had done years earlier to make the scenes feel right. Fans and critics praised the seriousness she brought to every frame. Then came 2005. It was one of the strangest years of her career. She appeared on Days of Our Lives and The Young and the Restless on the exact same day. She filmed counseling scenes as Julie on one set and revenge scenes as Joanna on another. The networks were different, which allowed her to juggle both. It was exhausting, but the paychecks helped, and the challenge made her feel alive. In 2010, she returned to The Young and the Restless for a twist that had viewers glued to their screens. Joanna Manning had hidden twins. The reveal pulled in nearly 4 million viewers and sent fans into a frenzy. But despite the success, Susan cut the story short so she could return to Days of Our Lives. Some fans were disappointed, but many understood her loyalty. Even with a shortened run, that twist became one of the show's biggest moments. Her full-time return to Days came in 1999, tied to the show's 50th anniversary. Julie reopened her inn in Salem. Soon a poisoning scandal exploded and dragged her into one of the show's most emotional story arcs. At the climax, she delivered a 15-minute soliloquy on loss and resilience. The speech went viral on early internet forums, something rare at that time. People replayed it because she captured something real. Her voice shook. Her eyes held pain. It was the kind of moment that stays with viewers for years. That legacy kept growing. On April 29, 2018, Susan and Bill Hayes shared the Lifetime Achievement Emmy at the 45th Annual Daytime Emmy Awards. Nearly 2 million people watched the ceremony live. Susan cried as she thanked her mother for shaping some of her most powerful scenes. It felt like a closing loop between her childhood, her mother's writing, and her own journey. Her work continued to earn recognition. She received Emmy nominations in 2018 and 2020 for the dementia storyline, where Julie slowly began losing her memories. In one heartbreaking scene, she could not recognize Doug's face. That moment mirrored Bill Hayes' real struggles in real life, which made her performance cut even deeper. In 2005, she and Bill released their autobiography. Like Sands Through the Hourglass, sold more than 100,000 copies and opened doors to stories fans had never known. The book described their near breakup during a writer's strike, their rise to fame, and the complicated years behind the scenes. By 2025, Susan held the record as the longest-serving cast member of Days of Our Lives. She had played Julie Olson for 57 years. In 2024, she filmed Julie's farewell to Doug after Bill's death. One scene included an unscripted sob so real that production stopped and let her breathe. Millions watched the episode. They felt her grief because they knew it was real. Her personal life had its own rough chapters. She married David Severide in 1963 at age 20. By 1969, they were divorced, and rumors of infidelity followed him. The breakup left her devastated and shaped how she approached love from then on. In 1974, she married Bill Hayes after a 2-year romance kept secret from producers. Their bond became a legend of its own. Each year they renewed their vows on set. Bill called her his muse. Their love became part of the show's identity. She stepped into a blended family with Bill's 5 children. One stepson's custody battle became so intense that it even inspired a soap storyline. The real-life stress shaped her work and made her family scenes on screen feel more authentic. Then came 2024. Bill Hayes died in January at age 98. That July, Susan channeled her grief into an on-screen tribute. She spoke about their first kiss, and she did it without a script. It became one of the most talked-about moments of the year. Now, at 82 in 2025, she thinks about her life with a mix of pride and regret. She sometimes wonders how her career might have looked if she had taken a chance on Broadway. But she also knows the soaps gave her something lasting. Fame, love, stories that touched millions, and a legacy that feels larger than any stage she could have stood on.